Or you can simply say it encourages hard work. Now, those individuals who are earning low incomes are compelled to become more creative and hardworking such that they can be able to earn higher incomes and live a better life. So that's why we say it encourages hard work. That is income inequality. Next positive effect is that it encourages investments by those people earning higher incomes. So the high income earners are able to save and later invest. They are able to, they have what we call a higher marginal propensity to save. Now, marginal propensity to save refers to the additional income that is spent or that is saved, as simple as that. So such investments increase production and investment in an economy. The government next gets concerned and it implements policies which are aimed at redistributing resources in an economy. For instance, the government develops basic infrastructure in the different areas of the country to support production activities from which people can generate income. So that is on the side of the government. The next one is it makes labor to be affordable, hence encouraging investment and production. The poor provide cheap labor needed by the rich people who are investing in production activities. Now, the poor are always willing to work even when the payment is relatively low, and this leads to low cost of production. So they can work at any wage rate. They're willing to provide their services, to offer their services at any wage rate because they need to make ends meet. The next positive outcome is promotes occupational and geographical mobility of labor. The poor are willing to move from the low paying jobs to the higher paying jobs, while other people move from rural areas to urban areas looking for higher paying opportunities. Now, the last time I discussed, I said we have not reached a point whereby we know the meaning of occupational mobility and geographical, but I try to define it for the students who are there. The other lesson, I said occupational mobility of labor refers to the ease with which labor moves from one job to another. And then geographical mobility of labor refers to the ease with which labor moves from one geographical location to the other. So that is it. That should guide us to understand those two concepts there. So it promotes that because people are able to move from one job to another. One job that is that offers less wages to one that offers a higher wage. Someone can move from teaching to being an engineer. Okay, of course, you go back for what we call retraining. Okay, or someone can move from teaching to, let's say, business person and so on. And that is what we call occupational mobility of labor. The next, it leads to high levels of savings among the high income earners. They are able to save and they use whatever they've saved to purchase what we call capital goods. Capital goods examples are like the machines which are used in the production of other goods. Yeah, because they earn higher incomes. So the higher incomes they earn, they're able to save the high incomes they have earned, and they use it for investment, or you can say they use it to purchase capital goods. The next is it promotes harmony between employers and workers, especially where the workers are earning higher wages. Now, such workers get satisfied with their employers. There are good working relations, and this minimizes industrial unrest in form of strikes. The next is enables the rich people to provide for the disadvantaged people in terms of need, in times of need. For instance, in case of emergency relief, the rich are able to donate relief items to those people affected by natural disasters, wars, and other calamities. The last time we gave some few examples. I said somewhere in Kasese, when I think river, you know better, that river that burst its banks, and people were suffering in that area. Now, because of that, the different people were able to mobilize. They're able to mobilize some assistance to help the people who were affected by that natural disaster. Also, somewhere around Bududa, when there was these mudslides, people were able to mobilize some assistance to help these people. So it is the rich who are able to do that. Okay. Then it provides market for goods of ostentation. Now, you know what goods of ostentation is? The goods of ostentation, they are purchased by people to show their status. Okay. Now, such goods, they find markets from who? They find markets from the rich people, because the rich, they purchase some of those goods in order to show their status. Okay. Next is the skilled labor gets attracted to those occupations where high wages are being paid to labor. This increases productivity and efficiency, resulting in production of more goods and services. And lastly, on the positives, we have it encourages utilization of resources by people who earn higher incomes. It encourages utilization of resources by people who earn higher incomes. Now, this minimizes resource wastage, hence resulting in production of more goods and services. Now, in that case, the rate of economic growth and development increases the rate of economic growth and development. Now, the rich people are able to allocate their resources, okay, to what? To exploit those resources. They're able to allocate the resources to exploit the resources. The resources, of course, the resources that are demanded, right? So that is how you can try to explain that. Okay, those are the positives. We can also have what we call the negative effects of income inequality. Now, the negative effects of income inequality are as follows. It creates rural-urban migration and its associated evils. Now, the last time we were discussing, I told those who attended that particular discussion that rural-urban migration is not a problem in itself, but it becomes a problem because of what it comes with. People move from rural areas to urban areas in search of better opportunities, in search of jobs, okay? Of course, higher paying jobs. Unfortunately, when they reach their destination, which is the urban centers, they fail to get those opportunities. And because of that, what happens? There is what develops. There's what we call high crime rates, development of slums, okay? So that is now the problem, and those are the evils associated with the rural-urban migration. But also, there are other evils like, of course, overstraining of the existing infrastructure in the urban areas. The schools are overstrained, the hospitals are overstrained, and many others. You can talk about that. So it's very important that when you are mentioning that particular effect, you bring out that add on something with its associated effects, negative effects, because that is what arises as a result of rural-urban migration. The next negative effect is it leads to the exploitation of the poor by the rich. We already say that the poor are willing to work for any wage rates, okay? So the rich use that opportunity to exploit the poor. They pay them any particular wage. That is exploitation, okay, for their services, or in exchange for their what? Services. Now this occurs where the rich are employing the poor, but they are paying them very low wages for the services rendered, which is very clear there. So it is a disadvantage to the poor because they're exploited. The other negative is that it creates unpopularity of the government among the poor people. Now, the low-earning people always blame the government for their suffering. I told those who were part of discussion last week that this is not far away from Uganda, okay? The majority of the people who earn low income, the majority of the people who are poor in Uganda, they blame the government for their suffering because they believe that the government has not done much to create income generating projects for them. Now, such people can easily be mobilized into riots, armed rebellions. You have seen these things, especially after the elections. You saw clearly the events that occurred in Uganda. That is what we are talking about, resentment and popularity of the government among the people, because they feel the government has not done much to create for them opportunities where they can generate what? Income. The next disadvantage there is it causes what we call low levels of capital formation, okay? Low levels of capital formation. How does capital formation arise? Now, capital formation, another word for capital formation is capital accumulation. How does it arise? Capital accumulation arises from what we call, it arises from what we call high incomes, which leads to high savings, which leads to what we call high investments. Because for you to be able to invest, you must be able to save. And then it leads to what we call high capital accumulation. That K in economics stands for what? For capital, okay? So that is how the circle is made complete. So the high incomes lead to what we call high savings, high investments, high capital accumulation, and high incomes. Now, we are saying that the majority of the people receive low incomes. Now, because they receive low incomes, they're able to save less. The savings are also less, okay? The savings are less. Low savings, low investments, okay? Then low capital is accumulation, low capital accumulation, low capital accumulation. And the circle is complete, you see? So you can see what happens here. Low incomes lead to low savings, lead to low investments, low capital accumulation, and then in that order. So that's why we're saying that it causes low levels of capital formation. Now, this arises where a majority of the people are earning low incomes and are not able to save, or they save less, They invest less and they accumulate less capital. Okay. And this finally leads to low capital formation and accumulation. Now, capital accumulation and capital formation are the same words. I think maybe you'll correct that. You can put in brackets accumulation in an economy. Don't say and accumulation. Just correct that. You edit that from your notes. 5, we have what we call it increases government expenditure on offering subsidies to commodities consumed by the poor. Now, we somehow discussed something about subsidies when we were looking at national income, the beginning part of national income. We said a subsidy is simply a money payment given to either consumers or producers to reduce on their, for producers to reduce on their cost of production, and for consumers to increase on their quantity of goods consumed, okay? To reduce on the costs an individual incurs in order to consume a particular commodity. Now, it doesn't only occur to the producers that the government subsidizes the producers. The government also subsidizes the consumers. Like some time back, the government of Uganda was subsidizing the power tariffs. The power tariffs were being subsidized. It means that the government was paying part was meeting part of the costs, okay, incurred by the consumers, okay? So that is what we mean by subsidies. Now, at the same time, the government allocates a lot of money in national budget to cater for programs aimed at alleviating what? Poverty. This increases public expenditure. So what is the disadvantage? It increases government expenditure on offering subsidies, okay? To who? To the poor. The poor who consume particular commodities, the government offers a subsidy to those people such that it reduces on the expenditure made by the poor. Now, the disadvantage is it increases what we call public expenditure or government expenditure. That is the disadvantage, or that is the negative outcome. The next, it causes what we call brain drain. Now, what is brain drain? You see, when you're explaining some of these points, do not define the point, but just explain how it causes brain drain. I'm simply going to give you the definition of brain drain to help you understand, to help you explain. Brain drain, like I told the people who attended last week, refers to the movement of skilled manpower from one country to another. Now, the skilled manpower moves from one country to another in search of better opportunities. In some cases, in your GP, you will talk about greener pastures, okay? But in economics, we talk about better opportunities, high-paying jobs. That is brain drain. Now, the movement of skilled manpower, not any other manpower. So if it is any other manpower, then that is not brain drain. It has to be skilled manpower, okay? Now, how do we explain? How does income inequality cause what we call brain drain? Some people with professional skills whose incomes are low decide to migrate to other countries looking for higher paying jobs. Now, this creates shortage of skilled manpower. It's very important that you mention that. This creates shortage of skilled manpower. When you're explaining, that should come out, because that is the negative effect now, okay? Shortage of skilled what? Manpower, because the skilled manpower has moved to other countries in search of better opportunities, higher paying jobs in the country, which finally reduces the pace of economic what? Development. Now, I told those who attended last time also that you see, for a country to attain economic development, the country needs what we call the human capital. Human capital. And what is the human capital? Human capital is the skills that are embedded in a particular human being. That is what we call the human capital, the skills embedded in a particular human being. Okay. Now, because the human capital is able to exploit the particular resources, and that is how a given country attains development. Okay. Now, short of that, the pace of economic development is what? Is slowed down. Okay, because the human capital has moved abroad or moved in other countries in search of better opportunities. The next negative outcome is it creates a narrow tax base. Now, once again, a tax base refers to an item or an activity on which tax is levied. Okay. Now, because people are earning low incomes, majority of the people are earning low incomes, they're unable to set up investments, setting up economic activities, okay, on which the government is able to what? To levy a tax, okay? So there are only a few economic activities that are set up. So that narrows the tax base, eh? The activities on which the government should be able to levy taxes is narrowed. So this happens where a majority of the people are earning low incomes, and the government finally receives low tax revenue from such people, hence a narrow tax base. The next there is it promotes social evils in the society. Social evils, in order to look for means of survival, people resort to social vices like theft, so as to get money, to get some money to maintain themselves. I don't know whether the so-called Bijambia are part of that, but that is also a social evil. But of course, we are told that the Bijambia people, of course, in quotes, they're not there to steal. They just come to destroy people's lives. Okay, you can look for more examples. Now, your examples must be from within the Ugandan economy here. Next is it creates what you call low aggregate demand. It creates a small market, okay? Low aggregate demand, which is the same as a small market, okay? Now, because majority of the people earn low incomes, they earn low incomes, so they have what you call a low purchasing power. Now, when you talk about purchasing power, low purchasing power, it means aggregate demand, low aggregate demand for final goods and services. Now, due to the low purchasing power, due to the small market, production and investment is discouraged, because what encourages, one of the incentives of investment is what we call availability of the market, okay? Yes, a high aggregate demand is an incentive to investment. It encourages people to invest, okay, in productive activities, okay? So because of the low aggregate demand, production and investment are discouraged. The next, it leads to what we call low levels of savings among the people. I already talked about that, because majority of people earn low incomes than able to save. They save less, still there. Low incomes lead to low what? Savings. Now, this is because the poor have low marginal propensity to save. I've talked about marginal propensity to save, MPS. We are going to look at that in details in our next discussion, when you're looking at consumption and savings. But just to give us something small about that, marginal propensity to save refers to the additional income that is saved, okay? Yes, the additional income that is saved. When you see the word marginal, it means additional or extra income that is what? Saved. Therefore, they cannot invest because Let me just repeat that. Low incomes lead to low savings, low investments, and they can't accumulate more capital. Okay, so this leads to low production of goods and services. The second last there, it worsens the balance of payment problems because the rich people have a high propensity to import. Now, the last time we're looking at balance of payment, what does it mean? Balance of payment refers to the difference between the receipts from the sale of exports of both visible and invisible, the sale of both visible and invisible exports, and the expenditure on both visible and invisible imports in a given period of time, okay, in a country. Now, the last time we said, because the rich people have what we call a high marginal propensity to import consumer goods. What does it mean? The expenditure on imports in a country exceeds her earnings from exports. Now, in a scenario where expenditure on imports, expenditure on imports exceeds, is greater, let me use this greater sign, greater than receipts on receipts or incomes from exports. What does it mean there? It means the balance of payment is worsened in that case because the expenditure exceeds the incomes or the receipts on imports. However, in a scenario where the incomes of a particular country exceeds the expenditure, so there we say improving BOP, okay? Here, deteriorating, or you can talk about worsening BOP. I hope that is clear now. Ochuku, are we okay there? Ochuku?
Yes.
It
is now okay.
It is now okay. Fine. Then the last one there is the rich people. Is it the last? We still have some few. The rich people always indulge in excessive consumption of luxuries, which is unhealthy. You know what luxuries are? Goods of ostentation, goods that are consumed to bring out that aspect of status. The money which is spent on buying luxuries could have been used to purchase capital goods to promote investment. There are certain goods that are consumed just to emphasize status, okay? So that money would have been used for purchasing what we call capital goods. Then the next, there is this discrimination of the poor by the rich. The poor people generally feel they are left out of leadership positions in society because it is the rich who hold positions of leadership. This creates tension and disunity among people in society. I think we have seen that in Uganda. I don't need to really emphasize so much on that. You've seen it. Majority of the MPs, I don't think they are poor. Someone told me, or I heard somewhere, that for you to become an MP, you need about 40 million to invest, okay? Now, where do you get all that money? You must be earning higher income. Otherwise, if you are poor, I don't think you can become an MP in Uganda. It is only on very rare cases. You may tell me that some people became MP. Yes, that was perhaps a wave or luck. There's what you call a political wave that swept. So majority of people became MPs or took up those leadership positions because of that lack